All right, everybody, we're going to get started. Thank you all for coming out. My name is Charles. I'm a professor here at the NYU Game Center. We really appreciate you, and you all come out for Spring Fighter every year. I have some thank yous to do. We have event sponsors that make events like Spring Fighter possible. Fresh Planet, Dots, and what's the Take Two? Take Two are our three sponsors, so thank you all to them. I also have a lot of thank yous for the people who've run this tournament. For a long time, we've been really lucky to have Team Spooky and Arturo Sanchez come out and do the stream for us. So we get a round of applause for them. Thank you, guys. Also, Michael Coleman, who I think went to get dinner, who's the TO here, always does a great job and keeps things running smoothly. So thank you for him. Maybe a round of applause for Michael. Appreciate it. And then finally, Gwenna, who pretty much makes everything happen. She's the mastermind behind almost all of the stuff that happens at Spring Fighter. So thank you, Gwenna. All right, so we're going to get started. We have, every year, we do an interview as part of the tournament. We feel very strongly that the fighting game community is an important part of the history of games. And almost 10 years ago now, when we started this tournament, we felt like there's so much history to this community, especially here in New York, and we wanted to do what we could to kind of preserve it. Seth, you want to tell them to quiet down a little bit? We wanted to do what we could to preserve that history and make sure that it's kind of passed on. A lot of times in video games, people forget where things come from, right? Players rise up and then they fall away, and no one really knows what their stories were. So Seth Killian got involved with the tournament, I guess almost 6 years ago. And he's been doing these interviews with kind of the legends of the fighting game community for posterity. So we appreciate Seth coming out for another year. And our guest this year is New York's prodigal son, Justin Wong. So give him a hand, and I'll let them take it over.
Thanks, Charles. Hey, Justin. You take that.
Testing. Oh.
Testing. Always testing. Yeah, thanks to Charles and everybody who puts on this tournament every year. It's fantastic. The NYU Game Center, always one of the bastions of real understanding of the fighting game community. And it means a lot to me, but I can't get choked up. Literally 10 seconds into talking here today. And, of course, back with NYC's prodigal son,
No. I'm a scrub. I'm a scrub.
Prodigal scrub.
Yes, I'm a scrub.
Okay, we'll accept that. Justin Wong, one of the early, most famous New York players. How's it being back in New York, Justin?
It's pretty cool this time because I get to see a lot of old faces that I normally don't see. Like, see this guy over here, Norman. I rarely see John, Sanford. See Yipes over there. Liston. I saw Liston over there. Like, it's very rare to see like the most of the Chinatown Fair crowd, right? So it's pretty cool this time.
Nice. We've seen like a bunch of different sort of city-oriented stuff popping up around the Overwatch League. They're trying to do some competitive games focused around cities. That's one interesting angle. What does the New York fighting game community mean to you? What does it mean to be from New York?
It's different now. Obviously, there's no more Chinatown Fair, right? Like that closed down. I just missed going there every Friday, seeing everybody just playing games. They want a money match. They don't care. People ask me to money match in SNK versus Chaos. Like you see people playing X-Men.
That's a bad bet.
You see people playing X-Men versus Street Fighter. You see people playing CVS, Third Strike, Dogstalkers, ST. Like, I really missed that, right? And obviously because Chinatown Fair closed down, that history is kind of gone. But there's people here still that wants to keep the FGC alive. You have like Spooky Arturo, and you have Henry Sen, who opened the NOBC, right? Next Level. So that's really nice that he's still there, even though he's kind of like a wacky person in the head sometimes. But he still loves everybody here.
Early blow-ups, yeah. Shout out to Henry's trying to keep the flame alive. I guess I usually like to start by hearing about some of what earliest memories and what brought you into gaming. What's your first memory of games, whether video or otherwise?
I think the first time I played a video game was I would say Super Mario Brothers NES. But first time going to the arcade, my grandma took me to Chinatown Fair, and I was playing Hyper Fighting there, and I saw this guy picking M. Bison doing Psycho Crusher, and I thought, wait, I could do that too. So I thought it was really nice, just doing Psycho Crusher back and forth, and eventually.
That is pretty top strat, actually.
Is it?
Yeah.
I mean, this one guy I didn't know who he was. I forgot what he looked like, but he definitely washed me pretty bad. But after that, just growing up with a lot of kids in my middle school, they were playing Marvel's Capcom 1, and I wanted to be friends with them. So in order for me to be friends with them, I had to learn how to play Marvel's Capcom 1. So I found a random candy shop near, I used to live in 14th Street. It's called Raoul's Candy Shop, right? And they had a janky Marvel's Capcom 1 machine. I spent the whole summer trying to learn how to play Marvel's Capcom 1 right in my way. And I was able to beat them. And then that's when we started going to Chinatown Fair and played against kids my age at the time. And I didn't know anyone else that played besides kids. I thought adults don't play video games like that.
Correct. So that was the beginning of sort of your competitive spark as well. How did that work? So you were initially in it to make some friends, or just to hang out with your friends and be able to ball.
Yeah, I mean, growing up, it's if you were the best in your clique, you were popular. So I wanted to be the best in my clique. So I was beating them, and then I wanted to get popular with the girls too. And it's funny because they were playing Magical Drop. And Norman knows this, so they were so nice at it. So eventually I got really good at Magical Drop, and I was able to hang out with them too, so it was pretty funny.
So you screwed up by sticking with MVC then? You should have stuck with Magical Drop.
I mean, I was able to play both.
Okay, all right. 2 games at the same time. Tell people, for anybody that doesn't know, we do some history here. Tell the people about a guy named Eddie Lee and what he meant to New York and how he factored in your own evolution as a player.
Eddie Lee, I actually hated him for a long time when I was growing up.
Many FGC stories begin that way.
Because
that guy? Hate that guy.
Because when I actually thought I was the best in Marvel's Capcom 1. Literally, when I went after school, I never lost.
Who was your initial team, by the way? Because I know your late period teams, but
it was actually Strider Wolverine.
Ooh.
Right?
It's a good guess. So
I played because the kids played Strider. Everyone loves playing Strider. He was cool. He's a ninja, right? I never played his games before. The first time I saw Strider was Marvel's Capcom 1, and I was playing and I was like, damn, I'm probably the best because none of these kids could beat me. None of the middle school kids, people from other schools, they couldn't beat me. So I actually thought in my head I was the best. Then one time, this guy, Asian guy, came out of nowhere. It's 5 o'clock. I never stayed out past 5 o'clock. It's my first time. That's when people get off work.
How old are you at this point?
I was 13, 14. I forgot which.
Still a good kid at
Not
this
12.
point.
I don't think so. Now I was really cocky actually when I was growing up because I was the best in middle school, right? And I think I lost at least $20 worth of quarters to Eddie Lee, and I was really upset, really, really upset. Damn, I really couldn't get one game. I was like, wow, right? And all of a sudden, more people showed up. You had Arturo Sanchez. He's cheap with Red Venom. He washed me too. Josh Wigfall washed me too. Mike D washed me too. And I'm just like, damn, I guess I'm not the best. And that made me really want to get better. I started going to Chinatown Fair at 10 a.m. every day, during the summer, during just the weekends, because there was no consoles. There was no training mode. So my only way to play was going to this arcade and play. And then you have people that work the arcade that see me there. I'm there before them, waiting for the store to open, just waiting because I'm I need to get better. And yeah, I think that's what made me really wanted to be the best because I couldn't beat those 4 guys that came to my arcades, and they really beat me down in front of my middle school friends. So
yeah, talk to me a little bit more about that because I think that's a huge turn, right, for a lot of people where you do a thing, you like it, you meet some success, and then you get your butt kicked at some point, and then a lot of people give up or sort of walk away from a thing or you know what, this game is stupid. By the way, Marvel 1 was pretty stupid also, but just in terms of nuttiness, God bless it. But instead of walking away, you doubled down, and you talked a little bit about some of the social pressure or you wanting to back that up, but that's sort of the difference between someone who washes out and someone who turns into a competitor. What was that for you? How did that feel? I don't know. Explain it.
I think it felt really good just because eventually my my school friends didn't care about playing anymore. So I was going to the arcade by myself. I just had a mission that I wanted to beat those guys, like than anything. So, but I was able to meet new friends in the arcade that played Marvel's Capcom 1, and like Liston, for example, he's one of the guys that I played a lot in Marvel's Capcom 1, just like before the four Venoms, they call themselves, before they showed up. And I really wanted to become the best. And so I even said to everybody at dinner one time, we went to Marco Polo restaurant, and I said, if Marvel's Capcom 2 ever came out, I would be the best at it, like 100%. And everyone was like, no, it's impossible. You will never be the best. And you know, there was no such thing as leaks back in the day. There was no internet that you could go to like event hubs or anything to find out a leak or a potential leak. And it came out. It came out, and I just had to play it a lot. Made sure like I did the same routine, go to the arcade every day, 10 a.m. till close, practice, and try to find like the best strategy as much as possible while playing other people at the same time. And you know, even then, Eddie Lee was still just beating me down. Like he's still like that guy that was very hard to like surpass.
Yeah, just that sort of enemy. Like you must be this tall to ride kind of guy.
You know, people say I'm lame. He's actually the most lamest player of all time.
There it is. That's what I was hoping
right.
you would
he's
like
super lame.
tell us
like,
about the history of his style
like,
and what impact it had on you.
Yeah, I had to learn how to like have offense in order for me to break his defense, because my defense wasn't better than his defense. So that was really tough, because when you grew up in Chinatown Fair, you grew up learning how to defend, right? Everyone played defense. Anytime you're playing at your local area, you're going to learn what the best player there does, and you're going to try to X-copy as much as possible. So I had to learn how to defend against him, but in the same time, I was like, how can I beat him if he started a defense trend, if he was like the king of defense, and he played lame in every game. It don't even matter what game. He even played lame in King of Fighters, and that's an offensive game. It's crazy.
That's hard to do.
Yeah. So me trying to learn offense, that's when I saw players like Sanford and Duran come up, and they were trying to be aggressive players. So just watching them helped a lot too.
I think this period is about the first time you came onto my radar. The year would have been right when Marvel 2 came out, which I believe was 2000 in the arcades. It had just showed up, which was exciting. And I was playing at a tournament in Chicago at a place called Super Just Games for the Midwest Championships. And we'd heard sort of stories, because the internet still sucked, so we didn't really have video or anything like that to know. But we heard stories about some kid from New York who was like the hot stuff. But we didn't really know anything about it. You know, it was all just rumors, and like everyone knows that East Coast are liars. And
it was actually
blowhards. They talk big.
Yeah,
but
it was actually Arturo's fault that caused that, because if you go back into the DVD, there was part of it is saying like, oh yeah, he's the best. You can't beat him. Like he says it in the DVD somewhere, and I'm like, damn. See, now they put pressure on me. But yeah, I actually took a bus to Chicago. John Flash G, he forced me to go with him, and we took a bus.
And you're 14, 15?
15.
15.
Yeah. I took a bus.
Going out with an adult on a bus.
Going out with on a bus.
To meet other grown men to play video games.
Greyhound.
Okay, yeah.
And that's like the first time I really had an interaction with Flo, because he picked us up. We stayed at his house. He housed like 50 people in his
Ari
house.
Weintraub,
Yep.
picking it out there right by Super Just Games.
Yeah, and the whole time I had to tell my family that I'm going to my friend's house in New Jersey for the weekend. I mean, there's no streams back in the day. They won't know. Only SureYouCan.com will know the results. Like it was too hard for them to track me, right? You know, I had a beeper, but I mean there was no you know, they can't see what phone number I'm calling from, so it's all good.
That was a memorable one for me, because Chicago was always kind of, for many years, kind of the meeting place between the East Coast and the West Coast, which had a lot of strong players in addition to the strong Chicago players. So we'd heard the stories about Justin Wong, who's this incredible NBC2 player, and Alex Valle was going to be coming out to compete in the tournament alongside Viscant, who's like another like big Marvel player who's always been very good and a great thinker about those games. And so it was sort of a chance to see sort of how that was all going to go down. And I remember seeing you there for the first time, and you were running Mag Cable Cami.
That's the team.
It's surprisingly not that suspect, given like the way the game shaped up. But you were running that team, and I just remember thinking like, I'd never seen anybody move like the way you were moving, and I was like, this kid is for real. I'd never seen anything like it, and I understood more about the game just watching you play and watching the decisions you were making and where you were making. So I was a believer pretty quick, and but that was really your first. Was that your first chance to play sort of like strong competition on sort of a national level? You went from, beating your friends and trying to get in good with the girls to trying to dominate, your local arcade. Now you're playing at a tournament with guys from the other coast. What was that like?
I would say the first time playing a national level was ECC 6. And that's where I had to play Ricky in the grand finals. And I was coming from losers because the person that put me there was Eddie Lee. He, of course, I told you he's amazing. He's definitely the best, right? And I had to come back all of him losers to beat Ricky, and that's where the first time I would say it was really like nerve-wracking because you had literally the whole coast, the whole arcade on my shoulder, in my corner, just yelling, and none of us complain about just people yelling in your ear back in the day compared to now.
Hey,
you know what I mean?
yeah.
None of us complain. But it was really fun.
How could you take that? Weren't you just shaken by the?
But
words?
even the arcades like machines was shaking while we're playing, and like
People shove you from the back during the tournament.
we're going through some like really crazy play that some stuff can happen, right? But even then, it was just so exciting, like because you have that underground passion feeling. It felt so raw.
Yeah,
And
more like bum fights than
Yeah.
like yeah.
So after that, we went to Chicago, and I would say it was less rowdy because it was a meeting point. So there was like clash of like both West, both East, but there was definitely like a Vi side and a Justin.
You
Wong
could feel it
side.
in the air. Yeah.
So it was just really fun to play. I would say that me beating Vi felt really important because it led up to B5, and that was like the third major tournament to see like, can Justin win this?
Right. Is this guy for real or was this like a fluke?
Yeah, and then it's funny that it worked out because the finals was the previous champion, Duck Doe, versus me. So he won B4, and he beat Eddie. I need to get revenge. I had to make sure Eddie is the best. So flying out to California the first time, and again, I had to lie to my parents. Like they would not have let me gone, even if like the prize money was like it was only like maybe $1,500 total for B5, and like Midwest was like $600. So I can't even like say, hey guys, I want some money for you. They would look at it like, are you stupid? So I just had to keep it a secret for a really long time.
Was that the point you were sort of something special? Like when does that thought start entering your head? Like maybe I am the best, and is that a helpful thought or is that something you tried to keep out of your head?
I would say from all those years, from 2000 to now, the only time I thought that I was like really special was in 2010 when I got sponsored by Evil Geniuses, because I felt like I was like, damn, this is really crazy. Like, because the whole time to me it's a hobby, it's just for fun, and I wanted to play with my friends and meet new friends and represent my arcade. That was like my goal in my heart. But then when you take it to like a point where a professional esports team wants to pick you up and they see that you're really talented, it changes the whole perspective. Because throughout the whole 8 years, I just thought I was just like playing for fun, and I was.
How do you describe that balance about playing for fun versus, the responsibility to a team? You talked about your responsibility to your arcade, your coast, and now you've got a responsibility for a professional team. How does that change the kind of way you approach the game?
I would say it's a lot harder because back in the day when you go to an arcade, you could play so many games, right? I used to play racing games, DDR, Gauntlet Legends, like different type of fighting games. It was just really fun, right? Now, I don't play any games at all at home. I only play Street Fighter V. Like, there's so many games that I really want to play that I see on like social media that everyone loves, and I'm like, man, I have to wait until after December, after Capcom Cup is over to play. So it's really tough now, I would say, because you don't want to disappoint your team. You want to make sure they're happy, and they're always like, like, oh yeah, I'm really happy I pick up this guy. And I feel like that's a common thing that people think about.
So historically, like fighting game competitions have been driven by individuals. You know, it's a one-on-one kind of combat. A lot of the sponsorship have been coming through teams. What is it that you look for in a team? Because you're obviously very strong, one of the greatest American players of all time. What is it that you want in a team? Obviously, some financial support, but beyond that, like how do you choose?
I would say the most important part is just good teammates. Like, are you able to hang out with them at the tournament? Can you guys talk about strategy? Are they gonna rat you out to their close friends? I mean, I feel like those.
Has that happened?
It's possible.
Okay.
I feel like
your top strats have been leaked.
I feel like it might be possible.
Okay.
So, and also a good like staff. Like I felt like one of the most important things that kept me on like teams was one of the managers, AJ. He's a really good guy, and he always made me really happy. Like I felt like he was like a really awesome friend that I was able to just like talk to, and it's not just about the business. And plus EG, man, we had me, Flo, K-Brad, Pierre Barrock, Ricky. Like it's
except for Flo, you're pretty good there, right? So
no,
it's
but
almost
I mean,
a tight squad.
I mean, you know, like everyone's
yeah.
really close friends, right? And then and Echo Fox, like now I have Punk. He's really cool. I really like hanging out with him. So me and him like will probably like hang out more often, practice, and like I feel like there will be no leaks between each other. So it's really nice.
All right, let's talk about your play style for a minute. I mean, one of the things that always struck me about you is, and this is not true just of fighting games, but it's especially true of fighting games, you're able to look at a game super quickly and break it down and become good at very fast speed. So how is it that you look at a new game when you approach it? Like, what categories of things are you looking at in the game in terms of a character? Like, what is it that you look for when you're trying to understand a game and see your path to how you're going to win?
Well, that's because I grew up at Chinatown Fair. Because anytime when a new game comes out in Chinatown Fair, everyone wants to play it. So in order for you to get good at it, you have to make sure you can stay on the machine as much as you can. So anytime a new game comes out, like CVS2, Third Strike, Tekken 5, like when all those games came out, everyone was just, they dropped all the games that they want to play that. And I always wanted to stay on the game. So in order for me to stay on the game, I had to get better than everybody faster. So, you know, I was watching a lot of like videos on like, okay, this is the trailer, these are the characters, and watching other people play gave me like more knowledge of like, okay, this character plays like this and that. And I like to pick like very, like the characters I like to play are more like, it's either Asian or they're cute. So obviously big guys are low tier, you know, grapplers are always supposed to be bad. So you avoid them, right? And you avoid the main character stereotypes as well.
And no grapplers is not a bad strat, to be honest.
Yeah,
That's a good first step, yeah.
So that's how I decided to like learn games. So like when I played, for example, like Tekken 5, like I picked up Feng Wei, and yeah, he was Asian, and he was top tier. So I guessed right. A lot of times you gotta try to guess right in terms of like how they look and also how they move as well.
Okay, yeah, I thought you were going to talk about movement or defense or offense or something like that. Asian and cute, I guess, is the secret.
I mean, it's just you have to look at these characters and you feel one with the character. You know what I mean?
I know exactly what you mean, and that's pretty real. But yeah, most people I see try and pick a top tier or follow, and you say that's always a mistake. You should follow your heart.
No, you could pick a top tier. Shout out to Stanford Kelly. You could pick a top tier for sure. But I mean, I'm just saying, like, if my character that I chose first is top tier, that's not my fault.
Okay, that's what we call an option select. So sometimes when I look at the way you play, I think maybe in your head you might imagine that it's possible to play like a perfect round. What would a perfect round look like to you? Is it making no mistakes? Is it getting a read on your opponent? Is it confusing them? Do you believe in a perfect round? And if so, what does it look like to you?
A perfect round for me is to make sure no one can get in when I'm doing defense. So a lot of times in today's games, you don't really see that much anymore. Like more games now are more aggressive, and that's why you see
a lot of mix-ups.
Yeah, that's why you see a lot of complaints lately. But I would say that my current perfect round is when I play Manat, versus like other people that are other aggressive characters. And the fact that when they can't get in and I see the frustration in their movement, that's when I know it's over.
Yeah.
Like that's like my favorite thing in the world. Like even though it sounds kind of like chaotic, but I just love seeing frustration on people. It feels good.
I know exactly that feeling. It's a dark feeling, but it's a good feeling, and it's like you can just smell the tilt meter kind of building, and they're gonna make dumber and dumber decisions.
Yeah,
as
they're
it goes
gonna
on.
they're gonna kill themselves.
Yeah.
You want them. That's the perfect round when you get someone to kill themselves, and they're not able to understand why they killed themselves at the same time, but only you know.
That is some very real advice. I remember when Street Fighter 4 came out, and there was it was a big push and very exciting. You made some comments about explicitly moving away from kind of a more defensive-oriented style, which has been part of your history with Eddie, and just a strong suit for you, to want to play a more offensively-oriented style. In part, and I think you were very honest about this, and I give you credit for that, like to try and put on more of a show, right? You were worried that the people wouldn't like watching a player who was very defensive. And shortly after Street Fighter 4's launch, that's when you actually got signed. So you moved over to Rufus, who was much more aggressive, a lot of dive kicks, a lot of pressure. Now you might be switching back to Minot. But tell me about that choice, and then tell me whether you think, are you walking that choice back? What's going on in your mind?
So because Street Fighter 4 came out, it was a big boom. Like everyone came back. There was more social media outlets. There was more of streaming. And, I'll be honest, the reason why I went aggressive is because, Triforce is a very good talker. And he told me that it's going to be really big and you want to excite the crowd. And I said, okay, let's try to do that. Right. So I picked a Rufus, a very aggressive character. And, I made everyone raise up their hands when they do the raise the Rufus. Right. So I felt like it was working very well. And but the problem is that I was never an aggressive player. So it was really hard to keep up the wins playing against like really like high level players by playing Rufus, who's an aggressive character who didn't have a lot of defensive options. So eventually I felt like when the community kind of like settled where you have all these people and they really like this person and that person, I started going back to more of a defensive character. Like at the end of Street Fighter 4, I picked up Elena and Rose, and then now I play Minot in Street Fighter 5. But even before that, I stuck with Karen, and that was purely waifu choice. Purely, I picked her because I really like Karen. And now I felt like because the competition is so really hard, it's so hard now to win. Like anytime you see Street Fighter 5 results, maybe in the top 8, you'll have 2 familiar faces, that consistent familiar faces, and everyone else is like, well, this week you did good, next week you might get bodied. So I felt like in order for me to stay at like a high level, I have to pick something that I'm always really good with, and also what I grew up with and what I learned from like day one. And that's where I decided on Minot.
Yeah, you're sort of taking it back to the roots. I thought that was a strong choice. So personally, I was excited to see you go back to a character that seems closer to your heart. But you've also talked about, some of the challenges on staying in that top 8 consistently. You see a couple familiar faces up there, famous guys who've been practicing a lot. After that, there's a big group of players who could place in the top 8, but maybe don't consistently. So I think when I think about the Capcom Pro Tour, your main focus is Street Fighter 5 right now. And when I think about the Capcom Pro Tour, I think it's very exciting to a lot of players and drawing them in. But talk to me about what it's like as a top tier pro. That's a big part of your life. What's that like from the inside as a pro?
I think Capcom Pro Tour is very stressful. It's really, really stressful because there are too many events. Last year, I went to 40-ish Capcom Pro Tour events around the world. And because of like how the point structure is, like you have to really fight for like literally every single point and travel to every country, because there's always going to be players trying to make it in the Capcom Cup finals. Like their goal is to make Capcom Cup finals, because if you make it in the Capcom Cup finals, you're kind of guaranteed a sponsor, even if it's just for Capcom Cup. And
is that true? That's an interesting way to think about it. I've heard players talk a little bit about that, but I don't think I've heard anybody say it quite out loud.
It's definitely like that.
Yeah.
Like people definitely get sponsored. Like NuckleDo, he got sponsored by Liquid because he qualified for Capcom Cup. You know, he wasn't sponsored before that. And a lot 801 Strider was like that. I think a lot of players like they get sponsors because they're in the Capcom Cup because sponsors, they want their brand during the Capcom Cup. Maybe they'll do good and it'll just really blow up, right? And like NuckleDo won. He won Capcom Cup with Liquid, and then he's good. And but traveling nonstop every week. Back in the day, it was only maybe one event every 3 months. Now it's literally like 6 events in 1 month, and it's really crazy. Like I was thinking about going to Korea this same weekend. I said nope, I am not going.
Fighting Spirit.
Yeah. I did not want to go just because it's too much traveling, and I want to try to not go as many tournaments as much as possible this year because it's really stressful.
So that's a very sort of self-reflective attitude to have about it. It's hard to sort of walk away from competition sometimes. We see like YouTube tutorials about like how to optimize a combo or a setup or something like that. We all know about the importance of like making reads on players. You're making some reads on yourself right now, and that's one of the most important things that I think you're not gonna see as many tutorials about that. But reflecting on your own play and understanding your own patterns, how do you describe your own style? How do you see your own play, and how are you able to evaluate it after a tournament and say, what can you do better without just working on your setups or something like that? How can you evaluate yourself as a player?
Well, one thing for sure is that I am not optimal at all. My gameplay is far from optimal. It's very lazy. It's very just straightforward. But it's just that my neutral is able to carry me to a very high placing. So I know that I have to work on a lot in terms of optimization, in terms of max damage, like option selects. But a lot of my friends know that I probably will not do that. But that's why, most of my friends help me in that way. They'll show me videos on, oh no, it's not that hard. You could do this, you could do that. So I learned a lot from that aspect. So I would say I have good assists in the back helping me in that. But besides that, I feel like my matchup knowledge could be better, and also learning in today's age, learning numbers, frame data. It's something that I don't like doing because when you think about back in the day, there was no such thing as frame data. We call it, it has priority. This has more priority than this move. That's why it won. But in reality, it actually was frame data. But now you have to learn frame data. So I mean, at least I have a mobile app frame data now. So it's good to have. And also, I need to start writing notes on players because now and never, if you look at a stream and you see 2 top level players, they always have their phone looking at their notes. That's something that I think every pro player should have, is looking at notes at like, okay, if you're fighting this person this week, you have these notes to know that, okay, he does this, he does that, this scenario. So studying matchups are more important now than ever.
Yeah, so it sounds like there's just generally like less room for maneuvering. Like you have to go back to a character that's closer to your heart. You got to put in a lot of extra edge work. What is it about learning frame data that you don't like versus, however it was, like learning a priority system, maybe you could describe in a similar way, but why did that feel like more fun to learn than some of the detail work of frame data?
I think it's because I grew up in the arcade era, because there was no, like, you couldn't tell what frame data was. There was nothing you could find online about frame data, right? Like even like if you think of Smash Brothers, like Mewtwo King is the one that made the frame data for Smash. It wasn't Nintendo that gave him the options. And we didn't have that option, even like with Capcom or Namco. They didn't give us the frame data tools. So
secrets.
Yeah, secrets, right? So now it's just, I just don't want to learn it because I feel like it takes away from playing video games. Like, I want to play video games. I want to just turn off my brain and not think about learning numbers or playing math in my head while I'll do, this is -5. Okay, I need to do this move instead. Like it was more of like an instinct feel playing in the arcades back in the day, where now you have to really you have to use technology to make yourself a better player now.
We've definitely seen sort of a rise of the scientists players, and the amount of work they put in is incredible, but it does change a little bit from the players that play a little bit more from the heart.
Yeah, man, like Javits is a robot, bro. Every day he tweets something new about Street Fighter 5. Oh, this is plus 25 or 1,000. But even now, I still play with like pure instincts on how a person will react. I like making sure, like, if I'm playing against someone, I can see what they're thinking about and how they're thinking about it and what's their next move, instead of them putting me in a situation where if I don't know the exact number, I might lose the round.
Yeah, they got you with the math game rather than.
I
like,
know they got me good on that one.
Yeah, I think there's something to be said for wanting to play more by letting you play more from the instincts than play by the numbers. But that's part of the pressure around this. And tournaments can be very stressful, and beyond your own expectations for yourself, right? You've carried New York on your back in different places. You've carried the East Coast. In many cases, you've been the representative for the United States, as well as your team. How do you function under pressure like that? How do you make sure you're playing your best game with all those people sort of counting on you?
To be honest, that's not hard. I feel like I have always done that growing up, so it's actually pretty easy, because if they believe in me, then I would like do my best, and even if I lose, they'll know that I did my best, and they'll expect like me to do better next time. I would say the hardest part is that because I played from the beginning, like winning like $300, $600. Now I think it's more tough because the prize money is like 250 grand. And I think that's more pressure on me compared to back in the day. Because when I think about, if I could win 250 grand, I could do this for my family, I could do this instead. I think that's harder for me because I'm thinking about that. Because if you grow up in New York, it's really hard to survive because it's really hard.
Yeah, that is some real pressure. Let's think back through some of the big moments. What have been your top 3 sort of most important moments in fighting games? And they could be big ones, they could be small ones, but that meant a lot to you.
Top 3 moments?
It doesn't have to be 3, but...
I would say GameStop 2009. That was really big because I think...
The Street Fighter 4
Nationals, because everyone entered the tournament that went to GameStop, and the turnout was huge, and that led to everyone going to Evo. And I think that got me really like known like really hard in terms of everyone wants to find out more about me. I would say winning Marvel in 2014, because at that time I was really playing for the fans. I didn't want to stick with the top tier like Zero, Dr. Doom, Virgil. I wanted to play with my team that I made from day one, which was Wolverine, Storm, Akuma. And the fact that I had literally the whole arena just cheering my name because I was trying to play that like hero, that like people's champion hero because of my team, it felt really good because everyone always in the West Coast, you guys are mean. You guys booed me because I was from the East Coast. You know what I mean? I mean, it's just one of those things. So the fact that I had everyone on my side, it was amazing. And then the third moment is obviously the Evo moment 37, because even though I lost in the end, it brought back everyone's passion for fighting games. And even now, people that like never knew about fighting games, like their friend will show them, hey, just check this out right here, right? They see the moment and they're like, oh, I want to play. I want to do that. I want to check it out. And I feel like that moment brought so many new faces into the fighting game community.
So you died on the cross to bring in a new blood for...
Sacrifices have to be made.
Yeah.
Sometimes sacrifices have to be made.
Yeah, it's tough. Somebody's got to lose, right? What is it about Marvel that's always been so close to your heart? What is it about that game that you felt like you really bonded with?
I think it's because everyone played Marvel at Chinatown Fair. Literally, there was everyone plays there, right? And all my close friends also want to play it. They even posted a sign, play at your own risk, on the Marvel Capcom 2 machine. Yeah, play at your own risk, because if you aren't a seasoned player, you're gonna go to the next game right away.
And they put that up because they got complaints, right?
Yeah,
like this guy was mean to me in a game.
Yeah, man. Like it's amazing moments there. Like you meet so many characters, so many personalities, so many awesome people, and so many people that want to get better. And I think that's the reason why it's so fun, because after playing Marvel Capcom 2, a lot of people went back to the old games to play. Like that's what Henry put back: Street Fighter, Marvel Superheroes, Marvel Capcom 1, and we just went at it. Like it was just super fun.
So let's talk about jobs and things like that. So the fighting game community has a long history of players who are very strong players moving into roles like tournament organizer. Some people end up in game development, etc. You've had jobs sort of in and around the industry, but you've always sort of come back to being a player first, and you're back in that position right now. What is it that draws you back to sort of that player first place?
It was just really hard to keep a job and also travel for the Capcom Pro Tour. The fact that you work Monday through Friday, and then you leave Friday night to get to the tournament Saturday, and then leave Monday morning to go back to work, it was really stressful because at that point, I just had no social life at all. Like nothing. Like, I didn't want to talk to people. I just want to just do my thing, and then I'll say hi at a tournament. But like a lot of times, I would ignore my messages because I don't want to I just want to be alone. I just want to go home after work, watch some anime, stream, and play some video games. Right? That's kind of what I lived for like at least 2 years, and I just felt like it was so tiresome. And then when I joined Echo Fox, I felt like I could just focus on this, and I did. I quit NVIDIA and I moved to Vegas and have a gaming house there with Flash and Marn, and it's been no stress ever since. Like, I've been more happy. I've been able to just to do more things. I've been able to practice more. I've been able to show up to tournaments on Thursday now instead of Saturday morning and get some proper rest and enjoy the sights.
That's really the promise of the teams, and sounds like the Echo Fox is delivering for you, which is awesome.
Yeah, man, I really love them.
You've also been putting some focus on sort of the physical side of the game to try and balance sort of the physical as well as the gaming, and letting that become more of a priority. Where did that impulse come from, and what kind of difference do you feel like you've made in your efforts so far?
I actually don't know where that came from. I actually think Marn was like, you know what, we gotta lose weight. And I was like, you know what, you're right. And then he's like, all right, we'll lose weight together. And I don't like to lose to Marn, so I had to make sure I kept on the diet.
That is a bad loss.
Yeah, right.
Yeah,
so
Marn will remind you.
Yeah, Marn cracked first, so I'm happy about that. And right, and then you have so many other people losing weight now, and I just don't want to lose the yipes now. Like he's looking good over there. You know what I mean? Right. So. So even if it's not a competitive thing, the FGC makes everything competitive. So even losing this losing weight is competitive. So that's what's pretty awesome about it and how I kept with it.
So what is it that you wish someone had told you way back when? What is the sort of thing that you know now as a player, someone who's been around the scene, competed all over the world? What is it that you wish someone had told you, or that you could go back and tell your younger self?
Yeah, that's hard. I guess if somebody told me to pick Balrog in the beginning in Street Fighter 4 against Daigo, and I would have been happy, because it's definitely Chris Hughes' fault that I didn't pick Balrog the first. He said, "No, don't."
Is he here today?
I definitely saw him earlier.
Chris, you want to stand up?
But Chris Hughes definitely told me not to pick Balrog because he said Daigo knows the match. You need to pick Abel. And I said, "Okay, you're right."
Name one other Japanese Balrog.
That was definitely his fault. And then literally, like in the grand finals, right? I
remember. Yeah, you brought it back.
I picked Abel first game again and got washed. And then I'm looking at the crowd and I see Noel, right? And he's just doing the boxing glove pose like this. And I said, okay, Balrog, and that's what led it to a very close grand finals. But it's definitely Chris Hughes' fault I didn't win Street Fighter 4.
The blow-ups continue. Chris Hughes, terrible coach. Noted. So you hid some of your early fighting game efforts and success from your family. What do you talk to them about now? What do you tell them now?
Now they don't ask me too much, but they ask me where am I going, because they want to make sure I'm not going to like some dangerous place or anything. But I tell them where I go now. I mean, they have no choice but to accept it now because I got them a new place to live. So they actually have to. I'm actually the boss now, right? So they can't tell me, like, oh yeah, you gotta stop playing.
My house,
games.
my rules.
Exactly.
Like, you flipped it.
They actually have to hold that.
Nice. Even this is a competition, right? Let's be honest. It's all. So this is nothing new, but there's always sort of this push and pull in the fighting game community in particular between notions of sort of like the old school FGC and esports and some sort of what matters there to you? What is it about the FGC that you think is most important and worth fighting for, and what parts aren't really under any kind of pressure or don't matter as much?
I would say friendship. Like all my friends, literally up to today, are all people from the fighting game community. I actually have no friends in that I met from school anymore. Like I don't really know them anymore. But literally all the people I talk to every day, meet every day, hang out at tournaments, or just even talk online or play games with, they're all from the FGC. And it's really awesome just because that I was growing up, I was very socially awkward. I didn't really have a lot of friends. People that knew me from the beginning could they could definitely be witness to that. But the fact that I was able to grow up and understand just how to form bonds through video games, it's really important. And even up to this day, I'm still meeting new people. We're having, making new relationships. It's just always been like a blessing. Like even if I'm like 50 years old and I'll meet a new player at 20, like I'm down to be his homie, bro.
And that's at the end of the day really what the fighting game community means to you. It's about the friendships and the bonds there with other people.
Yeah, it's really about the bonds, the friendships. I don't really care about how much money you can win. I don't care about how much fame you can get. It's really about who's gonna come to you when you need help. Like who's gonna be your friend? Who's gonna come to your wedding? Who's gonna come to your to graduation or something? Like it's gonna be your FGC. Like when I graduated from high school, the people that came to my wedding were all people from FGC. Like none of my family came. It was literally all my my friends from the arcade.
That feels good, man. So the other side of this, like being on the, you've spent a lot of time on the top and you've always stayed up there, but it's sort of in an achievement-oriented society, we sort of equate self-worth with like how you're performing. And I guess you've arguably performed better than any American in fighting game history. A lot of players that are sort of coming up can look forward to new milestones of improvement. But as someone who's sort of cleared all those things, given that you can't stay on top like all the time and forever, I don't know. If the community's sort of love and respect depend on doing well, how do you balance that with like a healthy self-image, healthy relationship, and just being like a balanced person?
That's hard.
It is hard.
It's really hard.
Tell us, Justin. Only you know.
It's because I'm getting old. I'm already old. 30, 32. You might as well give me a cane at this point. But I mean, there's also people that are older than me are still doing really big things, right? You have Alex Valle. He runs Wednesday Night Fights. He's really builds up the community, have his level up series. James Chen, Ultra David, they're being like the voices of the community, the commentating. So I would say for myself, I just want to be more of like a mentor to younger players. Just because growing up, obviously, I made mistakes. When you're young, you kind of make like those rash mistakes. So I didn't have anyone there to tell me, oh, this is wrong. I don't know if you should do this. But because, I grown up, I seen some stuff in my day. You know what I mean? I want to give younger players more of like a more responsible look, like try to help them as much as I can, make them make the right decisions. But even then, I don't know if I can stop playing anytime soon. Like a lot of my friends say I could still probably play competitive until like around my 50s. And it's really hard to see myself not playing when I'm 50.
That's one of the most exciting things to me, even though, right, esports has a lot of pressure downwards towards younger people with fast reactions. I'm excited to see how long some of the older people can actually go and stay competitive with a different set of strats over the years and see if they can leverage experience versus youth and reactions.
Yeah, it's going to be really hard because I would say last year, youth definitely won over experience, but we're fighting back, you know what I mean? We old people are fighting back this year. Feel me? And come on, I am old though, right? You think I'm old? I'm actually OG though.
Yeah.
See, there we go.
I'll grandfather you in.
All right. I am a grandfather.
What do people misunderstand about you?
I think in the beginning they thought I was this really mean kid, but the thing is that was really you guys West Coast, like just talking a lot of smack.
I'm from
Like-
Chicago, by the
Like
way.
I'm just saying, but you were living in California, right? So it was just that there was no internet, there was no anything. People really booed me because I was from the East Coast. So they started making rumors like, oh yeah, man, he had a helicopter drive him to Evo, like flew him to Evo.
That's true.
And I'm like, what? Like there's so many of these rumors coming out of nowhere. So I think a lot of times people think I'm like this really mean, intimidating person that you can't really talk to. But you know, I'm pretty nice. If you like anime, I mean, we best friends at this point. But yeah, I think that's like the main thing that people have. Like they think of me, they think I'm like mean and you can't talk to me.
What would it mean for Justin Wong to look back on a life in the fighting game community and say, I won?
Wait, say that again?
What would it mean to look back at your life in fighting games and decide, like, yeah, I won that game?
I feel like
How do you win?
I feel like I never win. I feel like you can always just get better. Like I don't want to be at the point where I say I win and then I quit. I want to say that I got better and I can keep getting better. So I don't think there is a win-win for me in the end.
What do you want to be remembered for?
I guess I want to be remembered as like just this amazing person in the fighting game community that can just do everything. You know, like I can
Just that. That's it.
I can, yeah. I don't really have much that I want in life. Like I'm already happy and satisfied because
You've got Marn in your house. That's, yeah.
I mean, he's entertaining, but
I will give you that.
Yeah, but the fact that I was able to just get out of New York, and you know, when I used to grow, we were dirt poor. Like people that came over to my house, they can tell you how bad my living situation was. So just able to leave New York, get a new spot, also took care of my family to get them out of poverty. Like I don't think I need anything else at this point. I just need to make my own family, make my own little Jay Wongs and body them when they grow up. That's about it. But even then, I'm just really satisfied this moment.
You paid your debts. You
Yeah.
made your mark, and now it's on to the next. That's pretty fantastic. I'd like to take some questions, but I'd like to leave it there. I'd have nowhere to go from there. Like,
Oh, that's my alarm.
there's the alarm. I guess we're perfectly timed.
No. That was my check-in flight. My bad.
Well, I don't want you to get a bad seat.
Oh, you're good. We're good.
Okay, you're all right. I guess join me for a second. Like, let's give it up to Justin for some of these insights.
Thank you.
You're not out yet. Do we have time for a few questions, or are we 3 or 4? I'll try and repeat the questions back. You are allowed to duck exactly one question.
Okay.
Javits.
Being that you've been in the scene for so long, and you went from basically a lot of these top players all over the world being your rivals, and now a lot of them are on your team. What does that mean for your drive? Like in terms of like, what's your goal of wanting to win? Is it like for example, Tokido, like he had recently that moment with Daigo where he lost and it brought him to tears, but he's so passionate. So like, what for you would you say is like your reason to like want us to keep winning when a lot of these guys are on your team now?
Well,
Okay, let me say the question just for the people on the stream. Is that right? I assume people couldn't hear the question exactly, but you actually said it loudly, so I appreciate that. But so you've had a series of enemies and challenging players against you the whole time. Now many of these guys are actually your teammates. You're pulling together. You mentioned the Daigo versus Takedo match, and there was a lot of passion there. Even those guys know each other well, so they're still able to sort of set goals and sort of challenge themselves.
I actually don't like losing at all. So even if you're my teammate and you beat me, like I'm still gonna feel really bad. Like when like Momochi beat me at Capcom Cup, like I was really upset. So when I beat him at Evo Japan, I was really, really happy. So even then, like if I play Tokido, like I'm still going to really go fight as hard, even if he's not my teammate or he is my teammate. I'm still gonna try to win the match. So my drive for winning has not gone. It's just that like it's a lot harder to win now because there's so many amazing players these days. So keeping track of everyone is really hard. But that's what makes this current game very fun, because you have to be careful. You're not safe. Like literally, like when you go to in the old games, you're like, if you play first round, you think, oh, it's gonna be an easy match. But in today, you actually can't sleep on anybody. And if you're my teammate or not, I'm still gonna try to make sure I get the 4 round straight 2-0 with no stress at all in my heart. So yeah, if I have to play Tokido, I have to try to body him.
All right. Any other questions? I saw some hands that have dropped. Everyone had the same question. Yeah, back there. The moment or event where Justin decided to stop lying to his parents about what he was actually doing.
It was an accident actually. They were watching TV and they were flipping the channels and they saw me on the Sci-Fi channel for World Cyber Games Ultimate Gamer. I applied to be a contestant on a reality gaming show.
How did that go? Was there a driving competition?
It was a driving competition.
Okay.
I don't think they saw
remember.
that. I don't think they saw that exact one.
Okay.
But they saw me on the show, and they called me up and they asked me, "Oh, like, what's this? And how come they're saying that you're so famous on TV?" And I guess I was like, "Oh, that's when the jigs was up." I felt like I did pretty good for 10 years, of lying. Very good, That doesn't mean you should lie to your parents too. It's just that in my case, Asian parents are very strict. They the belt comes out. You know what I mean? It's not good.
All right. Any last questions for Justin? Let's go down front, and then we'll get Sanford because we got to go out on Sanford. Yeah.
So this is a question that was asked earlier. How can you tell when someone's a scrub?
How can you tell when someone is a scrub?
Okay, so let's say if I'm sitting next to you, right, and you have your arcade stick, like chilling, right? If I see you not, people like the button check. If you're not double tapping, I already know I can beat you really bad.
That's a real tell.
Yeah, it's a real tell, right? So like the fact that you're just pressing buttons like one button at a time, that's when I know you're a beginner and I can literally make the match like for me in my favor.
That's so true. It's sort of like typing. This was my old party trick when you'd go to tournaments and walk through the halls in a hallway. Like down at the hotel after the tournament's over, people are playing in the rooms, and I'd be like, wait, where were the guys I was looking for? Was it 1703? And you could hear people hitting buttons all up and down, and I could listen at the door and be like, no, these guys are the good players because I could tell by the way they hit the buttons.
Yep.
So that's super real. Real question. All right, Sanford, you got to be the one to take us out. Pad versus stick, do pad players have an advantage? And let's throw hitbox in there as well.
I think it depends on the game. Like some games, it's really hard to play on pad. Like Marvel's Capcom 2, it's really hard to play on pad, that one, because you couldn't button map more than one button, right? While currently in Street Fighter, you can button map a lot. And it's really strong in that one. And especially against those sneaky Zangief players, you can't hear them turn the buzzer. So, like, the sneaky Zangief players. So, like Snake Eyes, right? But, yeah, I do think in today's games, pad is stronger than stick at the moment because execution barrier is lower. So, it's harder to just do execution stuff. Like, if you looked at Dragon Ball Fighter Z, I would say it's really easy on pad as well, too, because the execution is not as high compared to the old game. So I would say yes. Right now, pad is stronger than stick.
There you have it. Join me one more time in thanking Justin Wong.
All right. Thanks, everyone. We're going to take about 5 minutes to get sound working.
All right, guys. So hope you guys enjoyed it. This is Arturo here again. Shout out to Spooky for the camera work and everything. I think it went pretty well. So we're going to be setting up for Street Fighter V Top 8. So just give us a little bit while we set up for that. And thank you guys very much.